This week on Unheard-of podcast.
George Floyd's petition got to 1 million within like days.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Breonna Taylor's took months. So the outrage, the outcry, even for her justice, was just not even really there.
Do you think that was a result of just the lack of coverage, or do you think that was just
I
lack
think
of
people
support?
don't give a fuck about black women.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to week 2 and episode 2 of Unheard of with myself, Evan Brooks.
Nick Brooks.
You can tell a little bit more about yourself, man. You looking good this week, by the way, man. You know, who cut your hair? Who cut your hair, man?
The same dude that cut your hair.
You know. That's me for anybody who don't know. You know, I do this. But anyway, we've got an exciting episode for you today. More so compelling than entertaining, but something that has been rocking America and the black community all week long. We want to touch on the Breonna Taylor case, as well as Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion. Just the effects that all these things are having on black women. Right now, they're going through a lot. We understand that, and we want to bring light to that and give a black woman who is dear and close to us an opportunity to kind of explain how they're feeling right now and ways that we can help. So without further ado, Nick, if you'd like to
Absolutely,
take it over.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I have someone who's dove really deep into the mental health space for black women, a really huge advocate for healing, for growth for black women. She is the co-founder of Coalition. She has also written a few books, as well as she has a blog. She has a bunch of different things going on, and she's put together a catalog of material that can really help black women in their growth and in their healing. So without further ado, we have Miss Tiffany Wright.
Yay.
Welcome to the show, Tiffany.
Thank y'all.
All right. Well, first, tell us a little about what you do, this new podcast that you've got. Tell us about that. Congratulations on that, by the way.
Thank you.
We all out here trying to do our thing. So happy to hear you're doing that, and it's a positive, initiative for black people all over, and not just black people, but just women in general, men who need it. You're doing your thing. So tell us a little bit about that.
So again, thank y'all for having me on. I am very grateful. I'm excited for this dialogue that I know is going to be powerful. As Nick mentioned, I am a mental health specialist. I provide therapy for individuals in California and New Jersey. It's something that is so important to me because when individuals think of health, they're often thinking of just physical health. And of course, in the black community, because the history that we've had with the Western medical system, with service providers, with religion, spirituality, the conversation, the understanding, the absorption, so to speak, of mental health and mental illness education and just any type of tools is something that we're still working on. And for me, I'm really passionate about what I do because you come into this world so pure and lots of life happens to everyone, and people don't always have the tools or the understanding around how to maneuver life. And so I feel grateful that I get to create space in a professional setting for individuals. Most of my clients are actually black women, but I have other but mostly BIPOC in general, so Black, Indigenous, people of color. I have LGBTQIA clients, and so I consider myself a very inclusive therapist. And it's something that I just really, really love. You never know what people are going through. You never know the depths of people's struggles, people's pain, just even basic things like communication. So
Definitely.
that's what I do professionally. Outside of that, as Nick mentioned, I am co-founder of Coco Coalition, which is an international 501c3. And we curate holistic events for women of the African diaspora all over the world, just giving space for Black women to be seen, understood, and heard, and feel like they can be safe, because this world does not always create safe space for Black women. As much as we are expected to show up, to heal, to nurture, to take care of, to do so much, which we're going to talk about today. This, what we give is not always given back to us,
Right.
you know, and so that's why we have Coco. And then I also have my platform, The Be Life, which is a digital platform that focuses on empowerment and mental health education, encouragement products. So have some books, have some journals, have some workbooks, and everything I do really is about growth, transformation, healing, empowerment. And so that's what led me to starting my podcast, which is called The Shift is Real. Shift referring to the internal shifts that happen when we have a moment of growth or understanding, insight, reflection. That's a phrase that I've used probably since like 2015, because I am very passionate about personal development and transformation and being really mindful and in tune to the world, the experiences that are happening within you, around you, in your relationships, and how that creates change in your life.
Right,
So,
right. And where can they find this podcast at? Let them know.
Anywhere where, you know, your major podcast streaming, it's audio, it's an Audible podcast, so definitely you can do Spotify, Apple Podcasts for sure.
Cool.
Now, I got to ask you. So, I mean, this has been a long process for you. It hasn't been something that you just built overnight. This is, you've created this over years and years of work.
Yeah.
So when, you know, your educational background is very extensive. I want you to talk a little bit about that. And then what kind of made you get into that space? What is that something when you were younger that you thought about? Was it, you know?
So definitely. And I just kind of want to put out the phrase trigger warning, because we're going to probably talk about trauma and abuse and these experiences that impact mental health. So for me, I had a child psychologist at 8. I was having my own adjustment challenges. I was having suicidal ideations at a very young age, just experiencing a lot of childhood trauma. I come from my mother and father had a DV relationship, so there was interpartner violence. And those things impact babies and toddlers and children, even if they don't really understand what's going on. Right. So that started showing up in a lot of behaviors I had, and my mom allowed me to share space with a therapist, and it was really helpful for me. And so I said, you know, I want to do this. I want to be a voice for kids, or I want to just help kids and help them understand things that they don't understand. And at the time, my idea was like, my family's crazy. My family's crazy. I know that there's other crazy families out there. And so that really was what pushed me, what motivated me. I love the notion, Simon Sinek says, find your why, start with your why. And for me, creating space for the voiceless has always been something that has pushed me. So I was very intentional going into my college aspirations. I got 2 BAs from UC Davis, one in sociology, one in psychology, and then I minored in African and African American studies. Very passionate about the African and the diaspora experience. And then I went to Columbia University in New York and got my master's in social work and got a minor in international social policy. So for me, everything has always been an integrative experience about not only just the individual experience, but what's going on socially and how that shapes, impacts, you know, each individual, and also really understanding how the impact of culture and social dynamics and cultural identity and ethnic identity really shapes people's experience.
Right. Well, just to kind of touch back on, you know, those early experiences of yours that caused you to, you know, reach out and seek some psychological help from an expert. I actually went through the same thing at the same age, 8 years old. You know, my mother was in a relationship in which she had just gotten married, not too long before that, maybe a year, to my then stepfather, because my father passed away. And I was already fearing that they were going to split. And so I was like, man, I'm only 8. I'm about to lose my second dad already, right? And that landed me in counseling weekly during elementary school. And I found it to be one of the most helpful things that I could have received. And so I wanted you to kind of talk about the benefits that you found, if what you can recall at that young age, receiving that kind of help, and why others should think about that for their children. Now we're older, you know, there are people our age that have kids that age. So why people should consider that and pay more attention to what their children are going through.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for, you know, that vulnerability and sharing that. I always tell people that, to me, therapy is important because no matter what your experience, no matter your socioeconomic status, where you are, just at the core of the human experience, everybody wants to feel seen, be heard, and be understood.
Right.
And especially in today's world, it's so easy for that to not be an experience, you know. Kids always have so many social pressures, right? But we know in this digital age and social media age, it's just so much more intense. And you don't know the challenges that your children are having. Like, you really don't. It doesn't matter how open and honest you think that they are with you. You absolutely don't know.
I think all they want to do is play
Right.
video games, play sports, all that stuff.
And to that point, it's kind of interesting you said that, because even I went to therapy as a kid, and, you know, there's this notion that's, you know, for kids that, you know, they're not really going through nothing. You know what I mean? Like, it's
They don't have no worries.
Exactly.
They don't have,
There's sort of this gaslighting culture, and that's just, you know, it's never the case. I mean, we know that even as an adult, you're still going through childhood traumas. So
Right.
how can you?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. In life, there's always going to be stressors,
Right.
you know. Now, depending on the person's mental state, they're able to push through the stressors, they're able to maneuver the stressors. But for some people, those stressors really impact them. And I think something that's so important for people to understand is, yes, you have your physical body, but you have what we call an emotional body. So the things that you think your body doesn't hold on to, it does, and it actually impacts your physical health. And it's something that I definitely want to talk about today, because there is no coincidence that Black women have higher rates of reproductive health issues, maternal health issues, cancers, because of the chronic stress that we experience, the impact of white supremacy, the impact of oppression in our community, in our families, in our society. And your body can only do so much with all that anger and hurt and sorrow and pain, you know? And so even just coming back to your question around encouraging parents to be mindful of their children, you have no idea the type of shame or guilt or embarrassment or fear that your children are having, you know, because they're not good enough, or they're not this enough, or, you know, they don't fit in. You know, you have more kids that are embracing non-heteronormative ideas, right? And so what that looks like in a peer setting, you know, the pressure to exist in a box when as a child you don't actually feel like you fit in a box. It's very common that 1 out of 6 I think it's 1 out of 4 girls, 1 out of 6 boys experience some type of sexual assault, predatorial, molestation, behavior, before the age of 18. So,
That's it.
and most of the time, nope,
way
they
too
they
high.
don't tell, right?
Right.
This
Yeah.
is the babysitter inappropriately touching the boy, or the family friend, or something like this, or even someone that's significantly older pressuring a child to do something, early exposure to pornography, all types of things, right? And these things impact your kids and you don't realize.
Right.
Plus all the stuff just like on social media, right?
Yeah,
So
that's a big one.
I think that it's just great. Even if you feel like you don't have problems, going to therapy is great, even just for preventative measures, because everyone just has stressors, and everyone doesn't have the best ways of coping. So
Right.
Right. What are, I mean, obviously we talked about therapy, but what are some other vices that you kind of do for yourself that you can maybe recommend for other Black women? I mean, I know for me, working out is big for me. It kind of releases my stress, and when I'm upset and angry, that's my outlet.
Yeah.
Also for me, I've started to kind of meditate here and there. I want to do it a little bit more consistently, but that's something that I've put into my daily schedule. But yeah, just talk about some of the vices that you use to kind of help cope and
So in mental health world, we like to use the terms coping skills or coping tools. Those are the specific things that you do, or a general notion of self-care. So again, everyone experiences stress, especially if you live in a metropolitan or urban area. You just have the stress of traffic, noise. I mean, even for us in LA, I mean, quarantine-ish, but there's still traffic now, right? Like there's still a lot going on. I mean, even in California, we have all these fires. We just been having earthquakes. Like,
there's no quarantine
it's
here.
just like so much stuff going on. So the thing is, you're always experiencing stress. And so learning how to create time and opportunity to replenish, to rejuvenate, to nurture, to take care of is so important. And especially as I do a lot of work with Black women, I encourage them to understand self-care does not have to look like putting on mask, does not have to look like getting your nails done or your hair done or all these pampering activities.
Right.
I try to encourage folks to think of self-care as restorative. Like, what makes you feel restored, what makes you feel centered, what makes you feel grounded, what makes you feel connected to yourself. And so that's mindfulness activities are the most simple. Your breath is the unlimited tool that you have, unless of course you have some respiratory challenges. But learning how to take deep inhales and exhales anytime. You can do that anytime.
It's so underrated.
Yeah.
Underrated.
Do a minimum of 5 to 8 cycles, right? People be like, "Oh, I don't have time to meditate." Okay. Take 5 minutes to just be still. I mean, you can sit on a toilet if you want. You're going to go there at one point in the day. So just extend the time a little bit longer. Close your eyes. Do some deep breathing. Scan, connect to what's going on in your body. Give yourself a positive affirmation. Of course, everyone has different time limitations, maybe because of family, work, all types of commitments. So just trying to commit 5 minutes. I'm really big on a gratitude practice. That is literally thinking of
what you're grateful for.
What you're grateful for and why. But not just what you're grateful for, but why.
Right.
Like, really connect to it. Take some deep breaths in between, because, again, more likely than not, if you're in an urban setting, metropolitan setting, you have a lot of commitments. You have a lot of things you're doing. So base level anxiety is much higher for most humans nowadays than it would have been 1,000 years ago.
Right.
Like the stressors that we have nowadays is not the same, you know?
Right.
And so there's constant worry, there's constant concern. If you're on social media, as most people are very addicted to their phones and social media nowadays, you're having tons of stimuli, just really creating even more worry and concern, comparison, doubt, fear, discomfort. So much is going on, and you may not even be connected to it, you know? So even getting to a point where you can just take a moment to think about a couple of things you're grateful for, it puts you in the present, because anxiety keeps you in the future and keeps you in the past, but it's just gonna like make thoughts go places, you know. So gratitude practice, breathing, meditation, learning how to mindfully do activities, mindfully eat, right? A lot of people, they just get food and they scarf it down, right? Even if you cook, you might eat half your food, like while you standing up cooking, and you're like, okay, I'm good, right? Or you get food and then you go sit in front of the TV and you like mindlessly eating. It's gone within like 5-10 minutes and you don't even know. So mindful eating
You're not even hungry.
Yeah. And mindful eating is like checking in with yourself on a scale 1 to 10. How hungry are you? Checking in with your emotions, looking at the food, right? Like the colors, the textures, the aromas, like all of that stuff. So different mindfulness activities, mindful walking, really big on water. So like baths, showers, very simple, using aromatherapy, and just creating time for nothingness. Like we live in a culture where most people are defined by their productivity. They feel like if I don't have credentials, if I'm not working, if I'm not meeting goals, I'm lazy, right? And it's like, but your body has to rejuvenate itself. You can't be on all the time. You know, we have such all this grind culture, do this, that, and the other. And it's like, your body is meant to rest for a reason. Like sleep would not be a thing if it's not something you weren't supposed to experience. You know, especially now, I mean, people want to talk about wearing masks and social distancing. Okay, how you take care of your immune system? Because your stress levels impact your immune system. Not getting rest impacts your immune system. You have a lot of people who have higher anxiety right now. They're having some depressive episodes because of everything going on. So they're having more insomnia. They're not resting. And then you lay in your bed with your phone on, looking at your TV, all this overload. Sit still. Turn your phone off. Put it across the room. Put it in another room. Don't talk to somebody. Like, you know, it's okay to cocoon a little bit just so that you can like bring your body down. So those are some major things that I would say.
I won't lie. That's for me. The grime mentality is tough for me, and we've talked about this personally. Like,
same, bro.
I honestly, I'm at a point where I feel like if I'm not up really early in the morning, I feel lazy. Like if I get up at like 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, I'm like, I feel like a lazy like couch potato. You know what I mean? So, but I think, I don't know if it's the stress of just being a man and feeling like you have to produce and get yourself together. You know, obviously I'm still, you know, young considering, as far as trying to get myself where I want to be, but that's definitely hard for a lot of people because of the capitalistic society, you know,
for sure.
But that's definitely helpful, especially for me and just for a lot of, you know, people. It's important.
I mean, even just adding on to that, and something that I have to constantly tell my clients, especially my Black clients, like, to be honest, as Black people in the U.S., you know, so much conditioning due to our social experience here has been limited to, as a Black body, you are exploited for reproduction and pleasure or productivity.
Right.
And that is the core of a lot of our identities. How sexual we are, how attractive we are, how valuable in a relationship or in society we are aesthetically,
and what we could do as entertainment,
and what we can do to make money.
Right.
to take care of ourselves, to take care of our community, right? But like, you're so much more than what you do,
Right.
and what's between your legs.
Right.
You know what I
I'm
mean?
learning that.
And I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with grinding. So it's not like I'm against that, right? Because there is a level of mastery you have to have when you're paving forth any path. But it's the guilt that comes from rest that's problematic, right?
I feel like I don't deserve rest.
Exactly. It's the lack of balance that
Right.
happens. It's the self-criticism that ensues because you don't think that you can give yourself permission to chill. Like, that's the problematic piece. And then when you get to the point where you hella exhaust yourself and you sick, you in the hospital, you get some diagnosis,
Right.
and then people be like, you know, I feel like this was a sign from God that I need to slow down. How many times do you hear that? You break something, you get a diagnosis, like, you know, and it's like, it don't gotta go that far.
It don't.
Yeah, it don't.
It don't, you know, and that's just my thing. And I definitely want to talk about that more when it comes to Black women, because, you know, I am so anti the superwoman narrative.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, because I mean, from a cultural standpoint, I mean, women have a lot on them. You know, women are pretty much the head of most households as far as income, but then they also have the highest rates of depression and anxiety and stuff like that. How do you think that the cultural dynamic, as far as just the lack of maybe male influence, male help in households, how does that affect, do you think, what role does that play?
So, you know, I'm a history person. I always feel like context matters. So again, trigger warning.
Right.
You got to go back to a time where a Black man was taken from his wife. Her children were taken from her.
Mm-hmm.
She was raped. Her children got to grow up in a house disconnected from her, right? She was used by her masters. You know, I mean, clearly we've had presidents that have, you know, had slaves that they use for sexual pleasure, right? You don't get to love on your children. Then you have to breastfeed and take care of other children, right? You had your sons, your brothers, your cousins, all the male figures taken away from you. They're beat in front of you. They're abused in front of you. Yeah. That separation does a lot of damage. Right? So when we're talking about the removal or the absence of Black male figures connected to women, we have to go back to the experience of colonialism. Like, we have to go back to that. Right. Because that is really where it starts. And you, whether you were a man, woman, were dehumanized. There was no such thing as feeling feelings. There's no such thing as medical care. There's no such thing. Vulnerability. Yeah, like this is not a thing, right? So you develop all of these ideas around how to survive. Right? And now you're in a space where, okay, yeah, maybe there are some mental health resources, but can you afford them? What your insurance look like? Do you even have time? Because you work in several jobs, or you're in the home by yourself taking care of your children. You're overworking for student loans. You're overworking because you make bare minimum wage. You're overworking because you don't have all the resources. Right? It's real hard. Yeah. It's real hard. And so when it comes to, you know, just even Black women being able to maneuver the stressors of this life with or without a Black man, you know, there's just this heavy weight of, no matter what, I have to take care of everyone else and I absolutely neglect myself. And then when you have black women that are like, oh, no, I'm going to put myself on a pedestal, they get called names.
Right.
They're demeaned. They're disrespected.
Right.
Because they don't want to struggle, because they do want somebody to take care of them, because they do want somebody to nurture them, because they do want somebody to provide for them.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so it's just like, it's such a complex thing.
It's interesting that you bring that up, because even the notion of, we talk about this all the time, but just the notion of like the angry black woman, right? The very demonstrative, the attitude, you know what I mean? And so it's important. I'm glad that you brought that up, because it adds context to, it's almost like, like black women have a right to be angry.
What the fuck would they not be angry at?
Exactly. They have a right to be angry.
But, I'm going to tell you one reason I don't like that.
Right. Okay.
Because we all have emotions.
Yeah. Definitely.
Like,
of course.
anger is a core emotion that any human experiences.
Right. Right.
You have a black child scream something in a grocery store and people want to call them bad. Mm-hmm. You have a white child scream something in the store. Oh, they're just having a temper tantrum.
He's just being a kid. Mm-hmm. He's just being a kid. Yeah.
All emotive experiences that are connected to black people, if they're not outside of joy or happiness, they're criminalized. They're
now don't get me wrong. If I see a little white boy being bad in the store, I'm gonna say he's being bad.
No, I get it, right? But it's it's important to understand that all emotions serve a purpose.
Yeah. Right.
And when you have a people that is treated like they are not human, that they are invisible, that they don't matter, how do you express that something's not fair? Right. How do you express that you're hurt?
I'm glad that we're talking about this, because one thing that I've noticed, whether it be women that I've come across, friendships, women that I've dated, women that you just come across in life, there's this notion of what I see, just lack of a well-rounded verse of emotions that you display. It's either you're either happy or you're angry, right? It's very rare that I see black women show that they're disappointed,
because if nobody ever gave them permission, similarly for black men, if you ain't got permission to feel, you ain't got permission to exist, you ain't got permission to be authentic, you ain't got permission to just live, that you gonna do what you've been granted permission to do until you get to the point where you grant your own self permission and you give your own self the space, right? If you're being told, okay, I mean, even when it comes to grief, people are so strange when it comes to grief. Someone dies and you say, oh, don't cry, it's gonna be okay.
Right.
Why can't I cry? This person I love that just died.
Right. Yeah.
It's going to be okay.
Are awkward about that.
We're not talking about what it's going to be. What is it right now? Can you allow me the space to be sad or melancholy?
Right.
No. So we minimize other people's emotions. And because we minimize other people's emotions, people internalize how to minimize their own things, right? And so even when it comes to black women, if people are constantly telling you strong, I know you can do it. What are you telling me? Right. Are you telling me that I need to think about how much weight that I can carry before embracing my humanness? Is that what you're telling me?
Right. That's a good point.
Because I'm hurt, because this job is hard, because my kids is getting on my nerves, because I'm not getting help with them, with my finances, with things going on, I can't cry.
Yeah. Right.
Oh yeah, but don't sit in it too long. Oh, then can you do something at the church? Then can you help your cousin? Oh, they need help too. Okay, so then even if I give myself space, I gotta like fold that up real quick, because then I gotta go take care of somebody else.
Right. Well, no, I mean, that's it's something that I think we all have to deal with in terms of what people expect as far as us having this hard shell. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But, I mean, to our core, we're just human beings. We all gonna have feelings.
Absolutely.
But to slightly switch gears, 'cause I know we got way deeper into certain things than planned before we started touching on some other stuff.
Part of my passion.
Yeah, fool. Anyway, you touched earlier very briefly on everything that's going on right now and how that affects people and how, you know, that affects the psyche of a black woman and all that. Tell us your thoughts on the verdict regarding Breonna Taylor and how that's made you feel as a black woman.
To be honest, I didn't have expectations that they were going to actually get convicted.
Same.
Yeah.
And, you know, part of the social media protests that really irritated me throughout these times was like, arrest the cops. I don't give a fuck about an arrest.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck about a charge. No. Can we get a whole conviction?
Right.
Because we know that they could easily be charged, but they don't get convicted.
Yeah, arrest don't mean nothing.
And I mean, it still blows my mind that people can have all these reasonings as to why it would be okay for somebody to come into your house and kill you.
Man, that's the thing.
Why is that okay? It don't even matter what you did.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or your affiliation. Why can somebody just come and take your life away?
Right. Because the boyfriend shot first. But it's like, look, time out, bro. And this is what they say when they say the system is not broken. The system is designed this way.
Oh, absolutely.
To fail us. Because the reason, and I mean, my mom is in law. She got a law degree. And so she's explaining to me why this was okay for them to kill or to shoot to kill in this situation. And it was apparently because the boyfriend shot first. And if I'm not mistaken, these people showed up to the wrong house.
Yeah, it don't matter because the invasion was already there.
Exactly. So it's like, look, this dude doesn't know these people are coming, apparently.
He didn't know it was police, right?
Yeah, he's shooting thinking that somebody's trying to bust into their home.
Who wouldn't?
Which by law, you are allowed to do. But they tell you, if you shoot somebody who invades your home, invades your property, you better kill them, because if you don't, they have a right to kill you in self-defense, which is ridiculous.
That's mind-boggling.
It's so ridiculous to me. It's like, look, by the time you are on my property, I should have a right to attempt to do whatever I should, and you are already at fault for being on my property. So anything you do to me at that point should be held against you.
Yeah.
If you kill me because I tried to kill you for doing something you should not have been doing.
Right.
Why am I getting penalized for that?
Malarkey.
You know what I mean? Or not am I getting penalized, I'm dead. Yeah. But I mean, why are you walking free because of that?
I mean, and I think it just got to the point where I feel like I grieved her early. And I came to a place of acceptance around what was going to happen. You know, as much as they drag their feet with this, I mean, even on my website, I keep it updated with ongoing like petitions, you know, things of that nature. And even seeing, I'm telling you, and I would pay attention to this on change.org, George Floyd's petition got to 1 million within like days. Breonna Taylor's took months. So the outrage, the outcry, even for her justice, was just not even really there.
Do you think that was a result of just the lack of coverage, or do you think that was just lack of support?
I think people don't give a fuck about black women. It don't matter if it's the system.
Right.
In so many ways in our community.
Yeah. In
so many ways in this society. You know, it's like, it's mind-blowing to me. And with this case, I mean, again, a lot of my clients are Black women. So the grief, and people don't know how these things impact people to the point they take it into therapy. Literally, I mean, almost every month this year that something has happened that has impacted the Black community. Those are my toughest weeks because not only are my clients coming into the space grieving, but I'm having my own grief process that I have to reserve as I'm holding space for somebody, you know? And so what happens when someone sees like, oh, okay, I can come into your house and kill you. And then, you know what? I'm not going to get charged for killing you. I'm going to get charged for putting bullets in your neighbor's walls.
Right.
What is that?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So
because
crazy.
she didn't even get justice. That's the thing that's not getting highlighted.
Yeah.
That charge ain't got nothing to do with her.
Nothing.
And she's the one who was murdered.
Nothing. They made it about the people who nobody even knows who they are.
What? Right?
That's
And then people
crazy.
still gonna create all these ideas about, well, she shouldn't have been affiliated with a drug dealer, and this shouldn't have happened, and this should have happened. For why?
Yeah.
You know
I mean,
what
that's the thing that bothers me the most is like people are making justifications for people getting killed.
There
Right.
was a wall that got more justice than this human life.
Right.
And that is stuff that makes a Black woman angry.
It doesn't matter their background. It doesn't matter who they're dating. It doesn't matter.
People feel angry when they're injustice. People feel angry when they don't feel like something is fair. People feel angry when they are hurt. People feel angry when they are ostracized. Like anger is a really interesting, complicated, but beautiful emotion because it can be an emotion in and of itself, but it can also be a masking emotion. Meaning that people will go to anger when they're really feeling sad, alone, abandoned, hurt, disappointed, ashamed, afraid.
That's why I mentioned earlier about that kind of. It's like it goes straight from happiness to just anger. There's no system
but the thing is there is a lot of other emotions.
Yeah,
that
those
are
are not
in the
things that
anger.
happen that are
Exactly.
shown. They're not shown. They're just behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Right.
You go home and you're in your room by yourself, and
Yeah.
these things hit you, and
Right,
that's when you may
exactly,
shed a tear
exactly.
or something like that. But you're not
Exactly.
letting that. I mean,
Because I know a lot of Black women that have told me like, yeah, I don't cry or I don't show
Yeah.
emotions.
Because what
Yeah.
happens when you cry? Somebody often tells you, don't cry. It don't matter what color you are, where you from, like all this stuff. Most of the
Yeah.
time when you start crying, somebody says, oh, don't cry.
yeah. I mean, shoot. I am not too proud to say I will cry. However, I typically am the type to let that happen only when I'm by myself, or. You know, there was a
Because that's when
time,
you feel your safest.
Right,
You can be
right.
completely authentic and vulnerable
right?
with yourself.
And if I'm not, I try to make it as unnoticeable as possible, so I can make sure I'm done before anybody sees.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, but I mean, crying is so healthy though,
Man.
low key.
Because you only have tear ducts for a reason. I mean, they wouldn't
It's
be
so
in your
healthy.
body if you weren't
Like, there has
supposed to
never
use
been a
them.
time that I cried
And didn't feel better.
and didn't feel better.
Listen, that's the best sleep. I swear.
Nah,
The days
for real.
if I'm crying, oh my gosh, I sleep so good that night. It's
Right.
cathartic.
Right.
But remember when I said something about like you have an emotional body, like your body holds on to things.
Yeah.
You know, there's this notion that the body keeps the score and it always wins.
Right.
It always wins. And so you feel better. You can feel better after a good cry because you're releasing everything that is attached to those tears.
Yeah.
I gotta ask her this before we go. I gotta ask her this. How you feel about the Tory Lanez situation?
Oh, that's right.
I gotta ask her. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
As a fan of his music, you know what I mean. It's
You
kind
sure
of.
are.
I'm a fan.
I
of
never
his
cared
music.
one way or the other. I've never sought out his music, and it's not to say
I
that
listen
it's
to
bad.
it when I work out.
This
I
Okay?
just ain't
got
never listened to
nothing
it.
to do with his music gifts,
Right.
okay?
Not.
As a human, if you're trash, you're trash.
Right. Hey.
Now, I'm not saying he's trash, but I'm also not saying that he's not. One, bucket. Bucket two, I am against violence against people.
Right.
Right.
Definitely violence against women. definitely violence against black women. Okay. No, nobody was there. But again, you know, even if, let's say her story was correct, right? Because no one really knows, right? If her story was correct, right? All of the justifying that people did, oh, well, you act like a hoe. Oh, you said you a savage. You want to cuss out niggas in your songs.
Right.
You want to say you this, that, and the other. Well, you attract that kind of attention. You attract that kind of energy. Oh, okay. So she should get shot. Like that. That doesn't make sense. Again, nobody knows what really happened. However, at the same time, I just find that it's really insensitive and problematic that he dropped this album the day of Breonna Taylor's, you know, the verdict.
Decision, yeah.
Had no cares about it. It was just so insensitive, and he just clearly lacks self-awareness. But then, like, you gonna put out this whole album talking about I'm in love with you, I miss you, but you lied and you did this, and it's just like,
dude, did sound hella confused on that one.
What
Like,
kind of abusive cycle are you in? You know?
Yeah.
And so, what I don't like from this whole situation is all the people, men, women, and everything in between, who feel like it's okay.
Right.
I don't like how black men didn't challenge him publicly. Like, there were a couple, but just sprinkles. Yeah. I don't like
Rick Ross did, for sure.
I definitely don't care for how when black men are slayed, black celebrities go above and beyond to bring awareness to a circumstance. But when it happens to black women, it's not that same energy. It's not that same treatment. You might have like a few, but not as many. Even you don't have as many charitable things going on and philanthropic, you know, like initiatives when it comes to black women being hurt, abused. Right. Like, that's not a thing. And so the Tory Lanez situation, to me, is very representative of that issue in our community, that all of us are expected to root for, protect, love, support, surround black men when they are in justice, when something is going on for them. But it's not that same energy for black women.
Now, I got to ask you this before we wrap it up. What do you think we can do as black men to assist black women in their healing and growth and transformation? You know, obviously we got our issues, right?
As everyone does.
As does everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you think we can do practically, or, you know, emotionally, mentally? What types of things do you look for from us?
I think it starts with being open to therapy. I'm gonna be real honest that on average, there are more black women that are open to therapy than black men. For sure. More on average, black men are like, oh, I don't need to go to therapy. I got my homies. I can talk to my girl. I can talk to this person. I'm cool. Right. I got my 2K. You know, I'll go shoot some hoops. Like, I go do that. I'm fine. I'll just let it go. And it's like, no. Right. Because there's something called intergenerational trauma. And the impact of abuse and oppression and invisibility has impacted you. And when you interact with your brothers, your sisters, your grandma, auntie, cousin, all the stuff, you are reliving all these dynamics that you just don't really realize are there. You know, I mean, it's a joke, but it's like a man can be hurt by a woman once and be like, done, right? And a woman will live a life being hurt by men over and over and over, right?
That's true.
And so I think the most important thing is tenderness. Learning how to be tender with women, black women. And like, yes, you can think that they're resilient and tenacious, right? But like, just because they're strong doesn't mean that they're not gentle. It doesn't mean that they're not fragile. Glass can be both strong and fragile at the same time. Yeah. And I think the issue is black men undermine Black women's fragility because they can hold so much. And I think if you check in on let's start with your family. Like, check in with them. How are they feeling? Like, that's a big deal. You know, there's so much in our community around, oh, a woman should serve a man and do this. How much of that energy is focused on, do you just do a random act of kindness for a Black woman in your life? Send her a card, say, I appreciate you. Thank you for encouraging me.
Right.
Thank you for doing all you do. You look really beautiful. I'm so glad that you work so hard. Can you give her like a $5 gift card for somewhere? You know, like, can you go clean her house? Can you pay for somebody to clean her house? Right? Like, can you do something that takes a burden off her back? Can you check in on her? Can you just ask her, yo, is there anything you feel impressed about, stressed about, like you just want to tell me? I just want to listen to you.
Right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you see, Miss Tiffany Wright can go on for days about this. All right. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. That's why she specializes in what she does. But I mean, we gotta wrap it up. But before we do, Tiffany, I want you to talk about your books, share your books, let them know where they can be found, read, and just a quick little synopsis of what each one is about. We'll wrap it up.
Yeah, so I have a love for creating tools for individuals to help them in their lives. And so I have a couple of books around the topic of self-love. And so this one, 5 Commandments of Self-Love, is one I released last December. And there's tons of deep dive questions in there, but it's really just about, the content is centered around going on a journey of learning how to honor yourself and practice unconditional positive regard and acceptance, which is really, really hard for most people. Then I have this other book, which is more of a devotional style book. It's called Be Love, Daily Intentions Guiding You to Self-Love. They are reflections. They're exercises around self-love. I have a couple of journals, one on self-love, mindfulness, gratitude. If you're in therapy journal. All can be found on Amazon or going on my website, www.livethebelife.com. So livethebelife.com. And I've also started publishing workbooks. So I think that one of the most important questions that a person can ask themselves is, who am I? Mm-hmm. And most people live life trying to seek validation and understanding of themselves through so much that has nothing to do with them. And so this workbook is about you exploring what makes you you, how you interact with other people, and how you deal with the stressors in your life. So it's all worksheets, all reflective activities, and also that can be found on my website.
Dope. All right. Well,
y'all go follow her on Instagram as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Drop that handle.
At Tiffanys, or my Be Life platform, the _BE_life. My Coco Coalition page is at Coco Coalition.
Solid. Well, Tiffany, we thank you so much for being here today, sharing your knowledge on circumstances and all the things you've done, accomplished, and everything that can help others around us or in our community kind of grow within themselves as well.
And I think I speak for both of us when I just say we're very proud of you as well.
Aww,
Definitely. You a family member worth looking up to, for sure. For those watching, thank you guys so much for being with us today. Be sure to stay tuned for our next episode on being an athlete and the transition from being an athlete to the real world. You know, that transition is tough for a lot of us, and we're going to talk about it with our special guest, an old teammate of mine, Miles Holland. So be sure to stay tuned for that, and we checking out.
Like, subscribe, all that. All right. See you guys later.
All right. Peace.